right. And just like that, we are back with another episode of the Daily Deuce. As you can see, I am not Gary Graves. I am pinch hitting today. Back again, it is Dante Webster.
Hey Dante, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. You got to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. I'm John Webster. Welcome to the Daily Deuce. Now let me try it again. Dante, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. It was a nice weekend. It was hot outside. Uh, Most of the NFL games that I watched yesterday were pretty bad. So yeah, I mean, nice weekend, like weather-wise, everything was awesome. But then the football, yeah, it wasn't it was, it was a lot of close games, but they weren't good games. Like they were bad games.
Well, I tell you what, let's jump into it. There was a bad game, that was a close game, that was a losing game for the Washington Commanders.
Yes. Yes. Unfortunately for them, the Washington Commanders blew a 10-point fourth quarter lead and lost to the Minnesota Vikings led by Mr. You like that, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, who gets to wear every black player on that team's chain after they win. I'm sorry, maybe some of the white players own chains like that too.
Oh
Doesn't
my God. Why is it it doesn't matter what color they are.
right, but okay. I know Kirk Cousins doesn't own them. You're right. Okay, that is absolutely fair. Kirk Cousins doesn't own that jewelry. They have this man standing topless on an airplane in a bunch of jewelry, like he's out of a. God, I hate that so much. I like that they like him. Put it like that. I like that they like him. Optically, I hate that. It's just weird to me, but I like that he is accepted by that team. And yeah, I like that he's accepted by that team. I like that
You're
they're.
putting a lot of hate into his swag, man. That's not right.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. They're doing something that they're doing something that could be seen anywhere on the internet when you look at it. Just find like a group of black guys that like found like a white guy and like, oh, he dancing in the club. Let's all stand around him. They're doing that. And that's cool for the internet. I mean, it don't mean cool. It just means it's cool for the internet. Which Kirk Cousins is cool for the internet. So that's okay. I don't hate Kirk Cousins. I don't mind his game.
Well, he hung in there yesterday. He took a beating yesterday and he kept on coming back. I mean, I watched it, and I got to be honest with you, Dante. I watched that whole game, and it's been many a year since I watched a Washington Commanders
Mhm.
or a Washington football team game from start to finish. They had a rough, or Heineke had a rough first half, which to me meant he was going to have a good second half. He came out in the second half and he was doing okay. They had a 10-point lead. The defense was consistently good the whole day. And then it just, for whatever reason, they couldn't hold on to it. The interception that Heineke threw was all I can do is shake my head. That was a rough interception. And then the lineman, I forget the lineman's name for the Commanders, who had the personal foul on the initial field goal and allowed the Vikings to get a whole new set of downs and were able to run the clock down and kick a field goal with about 15 seconds left in the game. That's just unreal. And like I said, they were dominating the second half until the wheels came off. So
I didn't, I looked down at I looked down or I looked away from either the phone or the computer for a minute, and I missed how the Vikings got that brand new set of downs. I saw them get ready to kick the field goal, then I saw they kicked another field goal, and then it ticked down like 15 seconds or so. I was confused. So thank you for plugging in what happened for me there. I completely just whiffed on that. But the question I was going to ask you is, are you finally ready to sell your Heineke stock? Do you finally understand why he's not the guy? Like, I mean, as I watched that game, literally the only thing that I thought about is this is why most people don't invest in short quarterbacks. That man is billed as 6'1". He is every bit of the 5'11" I am. And watching him scramble around those big linemen and try to chuck passes up over linemen, it's really hard to do. I mean, as a backup quarterback, he's serviceable. Don't get me wrong. Like a change, like if he just has to come in and save your team after an injury, it's fine because he got that dog in him, as they would say. Like he fights hard. I'll never take that away from him. He's a scrappy guy. had to claw and he had to claw and scratch his way into the NFL to stick around on rosters. Can't take that away from him. Completely respect it. Yeah, people like you were thinking that you could just give him the job or let him compete for it coming into this year or something like that. Have you given up on that?
No, I mean, honestly, I know, and we'll talk about this in a second. Unless they beat Philadelphia, Wentz will probably get the job back. Now, I'm going to come up with something very crazy to say in a couple minutes about that game. But I would not replace him, Dante. I honestly think Heineke gives him the best chance to win. Carson Wentz is a stationary quarterback who I think has seen his best days. I think his confidence is not what it used to be. He's not sure what he's reading or seeing on the field. And he's to a point where and Dante, you play ball. If you're thinking while you play, it's hard to go ahead and get a smooth rhythm. And if you're worried about making a mistake, you're going to make a mistake. And I think that's what Wentz it does. I think Wentz, when he first came in the league, was really good. He did a lot of great stuff. I mean, he was getting that team that won the Super Bowl. People forget he put them in that position. He messed his knee up on a quarterback sneak against the Rams.
Yeah.
And that's how Nick Foles ended up getting in there and taking them on the Philly special and winning the Super Bowl over the New England Patriots. If Wentz doesn't get hurt, he's leading them because they were playing very well. And if I'm not mistaken, had either the best record or one of the best records in the NFL at that time.
He probably wins MVP if he doesn't get hurt.
You know, he just after that he hits a bad track. Or he's just not the same. They tried to send him to Indianapolis to play with Frank Reich, and that's where he had his most success when Reich was with Philadelphia as the offensive coordinator. That didn't work last year. You're putting him here in Washington with Scott Turner, and he's still struggling. I still say it. The best chance for them to win is Heineke. I don't think he's going to keep the job. I think as soon as Wentz is healthy, they'll put him back in. But to give him the best chance to win is Heineke.
So I actually will agree with you on that point. Now, number one, when it comes to fantasy football, Taylor Heineke throws the ball to Terry McLaurin. Carson Wentz doesn't do that. It's very upsetting. Now, I mean, just get that out of the way. But
Personal.
Nothing personal. Just strictly that. Yeah, that's just the worst. But outside of that, I don't necessarily believe in riding the hot hand if the other guy is just noticeably better. And like when we were talking earlier, I think we talked earlier about Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush, and when I think people were talking, oh, ride the hot hand, until Cooper Rush loses, you can't sit him. Yes, you absolutely can. Yeah, I mean, that's why I was kind of happy he lost because maybe we didn't have to do this anymore. Ride the hot hand. I will say you can ride the hot hand when both quarterbacks are around the same level of mediocrity. I don't think that, exactly what you just said. Carson Wentz, like, if you look at Carson Wentz's just physical traits and like talent level, does he give you the better chance, technically speaking, just on tape, just like what you can measure, the measurables? Yes, in terms of the measurables, yes, he's the bigger quarterback, stronger arm, fine pedigree in terms of being the number 2 overall pick, I believe he was. Yes, he has all of that. But if we're looking at how they're playing right now and the fact that Carson Wentz hasn't been good, and oh man, you see, last year he was actually solid. I'll give him credit. He was solid enough last year, but this year, just within Washington, he just hasn't looked outside like that first game against Jacksonville, maybe. Was it Jacksonville they played the first week, I think? Yeah. Outside of that game and like maybe the second one, he just hasn't really looked that good. He has struggled and the offense hasn't really clicked that much. The only person that looked decent within that offense was Curtis Samuel for the most part. And the running game looked good, but I mean, he don't have anything to do with that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You said something very interesting. You said neither one of them are noticeably better, but Carson Wentz is noticeably worse.
Yes. Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah. He's noticeably worse. Yes, absolutely. Yes. In this situation,
noticeably worse.
Noticeably worse, and it's just it just doesn't look like he's. I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to do much anyway. I think they're a team that has pieces, and because of like how bad things are in the NFC, they have a chance to like get to the playoffs. But how bad do you want to be in the playoffs is my question then, because like the team itself is it's kind of a mess. So you have a lot of stuff you're still figuring out and putting together, and I don't even think it's as easy. It could be as easy as you throw a quarterback in there, maybe you're better, but that's what they thought Carson Wentz would be. We throw a quarterback in here, we're good. We have this great defense. It it's just a lot there. I mean, even if you throw a decent quarterback in there, does that fix Ron Rivera's stuff? Like, I mean, Ron Rivera seems like a very nice man. More than a nice man, because he's had to put up with a lot more than what most coaches should have to in terms of like putting on a good face of the franchise, being the company man, going out there, going to bat, having to do what he had to do. You know, and he had cancer at one point. It was a lot going on for him. So, like, in terms of just a good guy, yes, he seems like a very good guy. In terms of a coach, I don't think it's not the answer. If it means anything to him, Mike McCarthy ain't the answer in Dallas either. So I mean, it just is what it is. He's a very nice man, says all the right things. Well, he said all the right things, so he lost his cool a couple weeks ago in the interview. But nice guy, really seems like he loves his players. He just seems kind of like out of touch, and it just really seems like it ain't gonna work out for him. Like, I know we're gonna talk about the World Series later. Like Dusty's players didn't dislike Dusty, but when he was here in Washington managing, seemed like time had kind of gone by him, and it just seemed like, all right, you kind of making antiquated decisions and those type of things. Again, proved everybody wrong clearly, but I mean, I'm just saying, that's how it is. And the same thing with Ron Rivera right now. It's like, all right, you're this guy that's really big on establishing culture. Here we are. Is it 4 years in his regime or three, four? Which one is this?
Year three.
Year three? Okay, cool. We're 3 years into your regime. The culture hasn't gotten noticeably better. The football hasn't gotten noticeably better. It's kind of around the same. And you and who was previous here? Jay Gruden, right? Yeah, I think it was Jay Gruden. Was it?
Was it Jay Gruden?
I think it was.
Yeah. Well, no. Was it Jay Gruden? Was it Shanahan?
Shanahan was never the coach here. Well, not the head coach here.
His dad was the head coach.
Okay, then it was Jay Gruden. Mike Shanahan was after. I mean, Jay Gruden was after Mike Shanahan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So basically, in terms of like coaching, like Jay Gruden, I don't even think he would have got. I mean, Jay Gruden, for what it's worth, got a bunch out of Kirk Cousins and did better than expected. You're kind of at this point, you're not even hitting that mark now. So I mean, they just need a lot more than what it takes. I mean, if you get to the playoffs, it's good for your fans, and they really need the morale right now because as fans were leaving yesterday, they were also chanting "sell the team." So they do need that morale boost right there that will come from a possible, from any type of change, but or just not even change from getting to the playoffs and having team success. It will be awesome, but it's a lot in Washington that you have to figure out. I know we didn't set out to make this a whole Commanders segment, but it's just when you look at that game and you look at everything that's just going on, it's just like this is a mess, and it's gonna take a lot to fix it. And I mean, like winning games makes your fans happy. It does energize you. But wow, they still have a lot to do after this. Like at this point, if I'm a Commanders fan, I don't even want them to make the playoffs because then that may give the bright idea that we need another year of Ron Rivera. No, you don't.
Well, I tell you what. Next week they play Philadelphia. How do they do against Philadelphia?
I do against Philadelphia. You know what? Usually you say that stupid thing of it's a rivalry game, so it'll be scrappy. Philadelphia's gonna wipe the floor with them. And I have no qualms about that. I really think Philadelphia's just gonna just bludgeon them because they're just it's the competition. I mean, Philadelphia's offense. Philadelphia has gotten off to some slow starts, but then the other day the other day I think it was like Thursday they got off to a pretty good one to me. I think what didn't they do pretty well in the first half against Houston, or at least put up 14 points or so. But I mean Houston. I mean Philadelphia had gotten off. I can't remember who they played beforehand where they did a lot of scoring. But anyway, Philadelphia had gotten off some slow first quarter starts. But I just think Washington they don't have the horses to keep up in that race. And I don't think
You
they're
know, you know, for Heineke, and that's why I said if they, he's going to not, if they lose, he's not going to be the starter. It's going to go back to Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a rivalry game. I'm going with the Commanders, Dante. He keeps his job. They beat Philadelphia next Sunday.
Oh wow. Okay, cool. Okay. You know what? In all honesty, I probably think they had a better shot if Wentz was playing because maybe Wentz would have something extra in there to play for. If Taylor Heineke's playing, I think, boy, them
I'm
Philadelphia.
going with the I'm going with the Commanders on Sunday.
Yeah. No, you know what? God bless. Somebody has to. Somebody does have to. There's a Vegas odd maker out there that's saying somebody's going to take this money. Why not? Now, we're not saying you
You
have to take
always
them.
you always got to keep a Heineken with you at all times.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? You and his family are probably the only ones that think he's gonna win that game on Sunday, and that's okay. Oh, and the people over at Old Dominion, the alum. I just don't see them winning that. Not to say they can't. Put it like this: do I see it happening? No. Do I think it's out of the realm of possibility? Also, no, because it's the NFC East. We know how this goes with rivalry games. But I mean, the Cowboys had a better shot at beating them than Washington did. And I mean, Cowboys almost did it. I mean, with Cooper Rush. So I mean, again, it's not around possibility, but it's just I just don't see it. I don't hate. I don't. Yeah, I do hate their chances. I just don't. I can't. I'm sorry. Usually, I would say, it could be competitive. I don't even think it's gonna be competitive. I just think they're gonna beat
Threw
them.
you for a loop with that one, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm surprised you took them. I wouldn't have, but you know what? You really love Taylor Heineke. I'd offer to buy you a jersey, but when he gets cut, it's gonna be really hard on you. So you know what?
A collector's item. So go ahead and get it. My birthday is this month, so go ahead and get it.
Taylor,
Along with the Johnny Unitas jersey, I want you to get me too.
on a Johnny Unitas and a Taylor Heineke jersey. I've never seen such a wide disparity. That's like me coming in here and saying I want a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar jersey and a Jordan Farmar. What? Both UCLA legends too. I mean, if it means anything to you, well, I'm using legend very loosely for Farmar. But yeah, okay, sure, we could do that if we want to. I mean, it's pretty huge gap there, but everybody's got their favorites, right? Or like you telling me, yeah, I want you to give me a Wes Unseld jersey and then a Rui Hachimura as well. Sorry, I'm using my basketball comparisons here because of just how little sense that made to me. But just anyway, yeah, if that's what you want, Taylor Heineke's scrappy. But as we sit here and talk about all this scrappiness and all this fight, there was a lot of scrappiness going on in the NCAA this weekend. Like college football, we had upsets galore. We had some really good games. We had a team that was crowned the new number one in the nation fall immediately, and not just fall, get crushed and embarrassed. And it really reminded everyone that Georgia should have been number one.
They should have been number one the whole time. It was absolute. I'm sorry, Doctor. I didn't mean to get going there, but that burned a hole in my Spurs because there's no reason why Tennessee should have been the number one ranked team. It's absolutely no reason. Georgia had been undefeated. Georgia had been blowing people out, and it was prime reason, and it was very evident why Tennessee should not be one of the top four teams. My goodness, I can't even put them in the top 10. I know they will still be in the top 10, but, it was a good weekend for me because Alabama went down. They're out of the playoff discussion completely. They got 2 losses. Tennessee lost. They're out of the top 4, and they should keep going down further and further. They won't. They're going to end the season, was it 11-1, because they got Missouri, they got Vanderbilt, and one other team. They're going to win their last 3 games. Vanderbilt is their rivalry game. I don't see them losing to Vanderbilt.
I never did that. It's pretty sad.
And then you had Clemson. Clemson played one of the best academic athletic programs in the country.
Here we go. Oh.
They played Notre Dame. And let's be honest, Notre Dame does not have what it normally has. It's not Notre Dame this year. You have lost. Huh?
They don't have elite coaching right now. You're right. They don't have elite coaching. Agreed.
They have very good coaching. They have elite coaching. Mr. Freeman will be a tremendous coach. He is taking this team. He's gone through some lumps. God. A lump where they lost to Marshall and they've lost to Stanford. Rough. But that's a reason why Clemson has no business being in the top 10 or top 25 because this is not a strong Notre Dame team. They lost to Marshall. Did you hear what I said? They lost to Marshall.
I heard what you said, and I watched the game. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I watched it too. And I had to throw it off. I had to turn it off. But that's why Clemson shouldn't be in the top 10. And that, and then like I said, Alabama, I had to do something on Saturday night that I normally don't do. I rooted for Brian Kelly and LSU because I needed them to beat Alabama. It happened. I won't be rooting for LSU anymore, but I needed that to happen. So right now, tomorrow when the playoff picks come out, the top 4 should be in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, Georgia Bulldogs.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Number three, Coach Khaki, Michigan Wolverines.
Mm-hmm.
And number four, the Texas Christian University Horned Frogs. That should be the four teams. That should be the top four. Now, when TCU, if they lose and when they lose, move them out. But until then, give them the respect they deserve. I get so tired of just the Alabama getting the ride in every year because it's Alabama. They got 2 losses. Go to a New Year's Day bowl. They should not have any way to get back into this top four. No way at all. No
Now,
way at all. As long, matter of fact, you got a USC team coming up there with 1 loss, a UCLA team coming up there with 1 loss. Come on. Come on. No,
what I will
no
say,
way.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Were you finished?
Go ahead. I'm finished. I'm finished ranting.
I wasn't trying to cut you off there. So Tennessee, they did deserve to be in the top four. They beat the number one team in the country, and they ran the table. They were undefeated. They deserved their spot.
What was the number one team in the country they beat?
They beat Alabama. Wasn't Alabama number one?
Alabama was number one. Georgia was number one.
Lost track. Man, really? Wow. But
Well, they were even 1 or 2. They
yeah,
were even one or two.
well, fine. They beat number two. Either way, they beat an undefeated Alabama team. To give them their credit, they did deserve to be there. Now, that said, since they lost, yes, I agree with you. In the way they lost in that fashion, they aren't going to get back. Now, the thing that's actually interesting about all of this is, shout out to Brian Kelly. Apparently, if Notre Dame had more talent at their school, maybe Brian Kelly could have did it. Maybe he could have beat Bama in those years, or Clemson. You never know. Maybe you guys had
Well, whose fault is that, Dante?
You're right. He was recruiting. My bad. Take it back. You're right. Good point. Good point. I get that one. I had to think about that. You got you. Good job. You called me on that one. But what I will say about LSU is, and I was listening to it today, they are floating the theory that LSU could be the first 2-loss team to make it to the college football playoff.
That is absolutely asinine. They should not. They should not. They should not be in the college playoffs with 2 losses. No way. And especially if TCU continues to win, if Ohio State continues to win, no. Ohio and USC comes up or UCLA comes up, no. A 2-loss team has no place right now in this playoff. No place at all. Unless you tell me Georgia's going to have 2 losses, Ohio State has 2 losses, TCU has 2 losses, Michigan has 2 losses. It's not happening.
It sounds like you just don't like that. That sounds like you just don't like LSU then, because if Georgia has 2 losses, then Georgia shouldn't be in it either.
No, and my point is this. Yeah. My point is this. Just like I said with Alabama, I'm saying with LSU, if Georgia ends up with 2 losses, they don't belong there. My man, Coach Khaki, you know I love Coach Khaki.
Yeah.
If they get 2 losses, they don't belong there. No, absolutely not.
Is Michigan gonna...
when you expand this playoff to 12 teams, then you can take a 2-loss program. Until you get that expanded to 12, absolutely, positively not. You don't take that. I mean, come on now. Dante, you know better than that.
Did your man Coach Khaki get a quarterback yet? He's been in Michigan for like 8 years, and they haven't had a quarterback for one of those.
Is that he has a guy. I think his name's McNamara. I think he's he's serviceable. He gets the job done. He moves the chains, Dante. He moves the chains every Saturday.
That sounds like a Notre Dame quarterback. You know what didn't happen for Notre Dame? They didn't win a championship. No offense, just saying. Quarterback kind of, unless you're Alabama and you just have an otherworldly defense that has a bunch of just really good players just stocked up. Or, you know what, your receivers are just on the next level, because Michigan and Notre Dame don't have those either. Well, Notre Dame produces some decent tight ends, but I mean, it is what it is.
Oh, yeah, they do. They do. And they've had some decent receivers. Well, they're not primary receivers. They're good secondary receivers.
I think, who's the last good Notre Dame receiver? Help me out.
Claypool just got traded.
Chase Claypool went to Notre Dame?
Yep.
Wow. You know what? I'm not even gonna lie. This is how long I haven't thought of a Notre Dame receiver. When I thought of the last good Notre Dame receiver, I thought of Golden Tate.
Wow. No, they've had a couple since then.
Yeah, you know what? That's how little I pay attention, because I just like, Golden Tate was the last good one, right? Wasn't he the last good Notre Dame? And there's another one since then too, which is sad.
You don't pay attention to Notre Dame because you fail to pay attention to excellence.
okay, we're not gonna do this because you just changed your tune on that coach because after he lost to Marshall and who they lose to in the first game of the year, he started like 0-3, I think, right? Or 0
They
2.
lost 0-2, 0-2. Don't exaggerate. They lost to Ohio State and they lost to Marshall. And I'll be the first to tell you. I'll be the first to say that was a terrible, terrible loss. But I'll also be the first to say Freeman has found a way to get those kids to bounce back. They got a road win at Syracuse, and they just beat a nationally ranked, not deserving nationally ranked Clemson team. He's got them rolling.
Wait, why'd
But
you say
now,
they're not? How are you gonna say they're not deserving to be nationally ranked? That's not even fair.
come on. Clemson struggled with NC State and what was it? And Wake Forest. Come
Man,
on. And you put them at number 4 and they're playing the ACC, and the ACC is past. It's normally weak. It's past week this year.
the ACC has what? Syracuse,
North Carolina.
and Clemson.
And basically, if Notre Dame, if
Notre
Notre
Dame.
Dame was in the ACC like they were the pandemic year, they would be the ACC champs because they had beat North Carolina at Carolina when they were ranked. They had beat Syracuse at Syracuse when they were ranked. They had beat Clemson at home when they were ranked.
I don't know how we were talking about like the really good teams in college football. We ended up talking about Notre Dame for so long. The fact that my God, you know what? Notre Dame's a great program. Seems like they really do good things out here. Yeah, USC and Notre Dame. That's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a good game. I know how much you love USC. I don't. It's gonna be rough for them to win that. Also, another game they have coming up is against Boston College. They always struggle against Boston College. They always struggle. There's been some nightmare situations that have happened when they play Boston College, and that's one of those games I just pray for the best. That's all I can do.
Yeah, I don't blame you because USC doesn't have the easiest road either because outside the Notre Dame game, they also have the other rivalry game, which is going to be UCLA. And so I wish they hadn't lost earlier in the year because I don't think they'll win both of those. They're going to lose one and end up with two losses on the
But
season.
that UCLA game, I think, is going to decide the Pac-12.
Oregon's still good this year, though, and aren't they?
Yeah, Oregon is still good. They got one loss.
Yeah,
You
they're
know,
top 10. Yeah.
one loss, Dante. One loss, not two losses like LSU or Alabama.
Well, let me tell you who did have two losses, but it didn't matter because they didn't have four. And that was the Houston Astros, who won the World Series this past weekend. They took it in 6 games over the Phillies, and I think they became the first team in like 20 years or so. It'd been a while. They became the first team in a long time to win, to clinch on their home field? I think it was that.
I don't know. That'd be a good point. They did clinch on their home field. They
Home
did.
field. I think about it. It's been a while apparently since the team clinched on their home field. I think it had. I had to look it up and just confirm that. But they did win. Houston Astros, they won the World Series. They ended a lot of the chatter. Not we all. I talked a lot about Houston and how they cheated, which they did, and they won that World Series because they cheated. And I was happy when the Nationals beat them. And this year I was forced to root for them because I can't let another NL East team win. Sorry, I had to live with the Braves winning last year. I'm not rooting for the Phillies, so I wanted Houston to win this year. And Dusty's like I said earlier, Dusty's a very nice man. So you know what, I wanted one for Dusty, and Dusty came through and got himself a World Series, and in the process probably put himself in the Hall of Fame. Which, when I looked at what his record is and the fact that he has like 2,000 wins, it's just I'm baffled by the fact that it took the championship to put him into the World Series because that's like a 66% win percentage because he's done like what 3,000 or so games. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you go. I'll let you talk.
I mean, you know how I feel about Dusty Rose, Dante. I'm Dusty Rose. I mean, Dusty Baker. I'm into pro wrestling. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
You know how I feel about Dusty Baker. I love the guy. I'm so happy that they won the World Series. He should have had a World Series ring. You and me talk about it when he was with the San Francisco Giants and they lost in 7 to the California, well, I guess the Los Angeles Angels back then. So, this has been great. I know some people are saying that the team that won before, I guess that was 17, that was tainted by cheating allegations and
I mean, they
substantiation.
it was proved. What do you mean?
Huh?
They cheated. It was literally proven. They were cheating. It's okay. They cheated.
I mean, it was alleged that they were looking at a light and some kind of drum being beat on.
Fine,
So,
fine, whatever, fine. Dusty didn't cheat, but the team did before he got there. Just saying. Go ahead, continue.
There's only 5 players remaining from that regime. So, you it's pretty much a clean slate, and I just look at Houston. I mean, all jokes aside, you know, they got a strong farm system. They brought a lot of kids up, and they just, Altuve's still there. He's one of the 5 that are still there. Verlander finally got a World Series ring, and he's a Hall of Fame pitcher, in my opinion. The guy Alvarez, that moon rocket he hit Saturday night, I still don't know if it's come down yet. It's 450 feet. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, they're a tough team. They're a tough team, and they're not just built for this season. They are built for the long haul. They were in the World Series last year. I think they can make another run next year. Now, this other Orange team that I have on today, they will have something to say about how far that they will go. Because, I'm gonna tell you something, Dante.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know in the American League who plays the Houston Astros tough?
Probably the Baltimore Orioles, right?
The Orioles, absolutely, absolutely. So, and the Orioles are using the Astros template blueprint as how they're building their program.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I mean, they're just unbelievable. The pitching that the Astros have, the hitting, the defense, I mean, they're tough. Bregman, Alvarez. Then they got the former Oriole, Trey Mancini. He steps in and plays first base.
That's a good one.
Honestly, I'm going to tell you something, Dante. In my opinion, Houston won this World Series in Game 5. They won it in the game before when they beat Philadelphia 3-2. I say it for 2 reasons.
Mm-hmm.
The play that Chaz, what's the guy's last name? I can't think of his last, the center fielder. The play that he made in the outfield when he ran and caught the ball climbing up the fence. And then the play in the 8th inning that Trey Mancini made at first base. 2 very important defensive plays. The series, in my opinion, was won in Game 5. Game 6, they won it, but I think they did a lot to take it away from Philadelphia in Game 5.
That's fair. And definitely want to make sure that I say within everything else, I know that I've said a lot about Houston that was negative, but they do set a really great blueprint for how to go from worst to first. They were a terrible team that was like, they were really bad. But then I remember they had like the Sports Illustrated article that came out about how they would end up winning in like 5 or 6 years. Came true. So they are a great blueprint for how to build a team back up from the bottom. Dusty Baker, one of the best managers, and it seems like a great guy. And Trey Mancini also has like a really good story, and so you do like to see good things happen for him, and so very encouraging to see him be able to go from one winning situation to the next. So
Yep.
that I
Totally
must,
agree.
but
Totally agree.
you know, I do want to thank you for having me on today. And so, I just want to say thank you for that. And I've enjoyed my time being on Daily Deuce again.
Dante, thanks for being here. Garrett Graves, you take care. I know you're out there covering college basketball. I know you're doing great stuff with it. All of you all, thank you for watching us today. Another great episode. These 30 minutes really go by very fast. Watch some sports and remember, next Monday night, watch the Taylor Heineke-led Washington Commanders defeat the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, that just made my day.
Take care.
I may not have to watch Monday Night Football. See you later.